We are being recorded. So welcome. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you might be in the world. We are here in the Afro-Euro time zone with Reco12, the Afro-Euro podcast. I'm Karen A. in Jerusalem, and I'm your host today. And God willing, every Friday at 8 a.m. UK time, or 8 a.m. GMT +2. It's 10 a.m. here in Jerusalem. And I'm so excited to do service and be here with you because this is my step 12 just for today. I hope this will be helpful and a service to all of you, whether you're listening live or recorded. Reco12 is a family, a repository of recovery resources that you could find online at Reco12.com. We've got shares with great recovered servants, trusted servants who share experience, strength, and hope about their recovery through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. These fellows work the 12 steps, and they come from various fellowships. You may find someone in Gamblers Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. We have codependents, Al-Anons, workaholics, all people addictions, substance addictions, compulsive overdoers, restrictors, avoiders, and any gamut of addictions and afflictions. We are all people who just for today are recovering through the 12 steps. And if you are drowning, a desperate man in the ocean looking for a life ring, we hope that this just might be it, whether live or recorded. I will put my number in the chat. Anyone is welcome to reach out to me, whether you're looking for a sponsor, you've got a great message of experience, strength, and hope you'd like to share here with us. We need more speakers in August and September for this meeting. I'm taking speakers all the time if you'd like to share your recovery story and do your step 12. Or if you're struggling, you are welcome. We welcome you. We love you. And reach out to any people on this meeting and our wonderful speaker, who I'll introduce in a second. He'll put his number in the chat as well. We are here to help you recover. If you would like to contribute a seventh tradition to cover the technical cost of this meeting, you could go to Reco12.com/support. If you'd like to hear previous shares, they are all uploaded there and they are awesome. If you'd like to present yourself as a sharer, you can message me directly, or you could upload a little snippet of your story on the website with the little SpeakPipe widget. Without further ado, here is my intelligent agent spearhead of God's everlasting creation, Ollie D, sharing his story. I believe our topic today is sponsorship in early recovery. Is that great? Is that right? It's not just right. It's such a great topic. When I saw that, I was like, boom. That is great because, if you're like me, you're hopefully cranking out sponsors at whatever pace you're at, whether it's one here and one there, a bunch at a time, and you got to help them have the confidence to just, open up the workbook, open up the big book, and get started. So I really vibed with this topic because I'm working personally with the sponsors on step 10, and here we go. Welcome. Thank you, Ollie D, for all that you do and for all that you are. Thank you for joining us here today. You'll have 30 minutes to share. Everyone will be able to write their questions in the chat. At 30 minutes, when Ollie will stop, I could try and give you a heads up. We'll either read questions from the chat, or you guys can unmute yourself one by one, and Ollie will hopefully take them live. Thank you. We can get started now, Ollie. Well.
Thank you, Karen. My name's Ollie, and I'm a recovered member of Cocaine Anonymous. I'll just start my timer. Really good to be here. Thank you for allowing me to be of service for anyone new or struggling. There's something really special on offer in any of the 12-step fellowships. It really has been my experience, and it's through the demonstration of you guys that I'm shown what's on offer through your through your kindness, your love, your patience when I don't know how to behave, when I really don't know what's going on, when I'm scared, when I'm frightened. Yeah, so thank you. You know, I don't know most of you personally, but you know, you are part of something incredibly special here. So yeah, the topic that I'm going to speak around is you know, working with others in early recovery. So I'll speak about my own experience. The beautiful thing about this, about the 12-step fellowships, is that, you know, there's many different ways that people sponsor. You know, I'm really not here to try and show you that my way is the right way, or the way that I've been lovingly shown is the right way. You know, I don't have a monopoly on this stuff, but yeah, I'll tell you about my experiences. You know, I came to Cocaine Anonymous because I was all out of options. You know, I tried everything but a 12-step fellowship. Um, Everything off my own power to either stop or moderate my drinking and using. And all other attempts failed off my own power. This was my last option, and it was the first thing that finally freed me from the pain and the suffering and the harm that I was causing other people. My first sponsor I chose not because of anything that he said when I heard him speak. I was still really unwell at the time, and I can't remember what he said, but what I do remember is his demonstration of the power of this program, of the power of God, of spirit. The wording's quite optional. And it was little things that really kind of stood out to me. It was his willingness to listen to me when I spoke to him. As I got to know him a bit better, it was his demonstration, you know, going in a shop and the kind of, you know, the kindness and how polite he was, and how he kind of sparked conversations with complete strangers. I was really impressed by that, and I really wanted a bit of that. You know, I thought this guy seems to be, you know, have a level of peace, of joy, of happiness. And I also remember something that he said to me right at the beginning. I think we'd not even looked at the pages of step one. He said to me, "Ollie, I don't want anything back from you apart from a promise that you will help other people and you'll carry this message once you're through the first 11 steps." And that really kind of struck home with me. Throughout even in the doctor's opinion and the pages around step one, you know, we're introduced to the idea that it's really important that we carry this message. You know, I'll briefly, you know, speak about how we get to step 12. You know, the book showed me, you know, that I have an allergy to drugs and alcohol. That you know, I have this abnormal reaction when I put one of anything in, that I'm not in control of how much I use, how long that goes on for, what I do while I'm under the influence, and that will always be the case. So that's the first part of which I'm powerless. You know, the second part was, and my main problem centers in my mind, that I have a mental obsession, this obsession that somehow, someday, I'll be able to control and enjoy my drinking and using. And of course, if drinking drugs hasn't been your issue, replace those words with whatever behavior, acting out that you suffer with, that's destroying your life, destroying the lives of the people around you. So yeah, I have this mind that takes me back every time to the drink, the drug, the behavior that's killing me. It crowds out all those experiences, all the pain and suffering and humiliation that I've been through in the past. All that's crowded out by the old threadbare idea that I'll be able to control and enjoy my drinking, my using, my behavior. So my main problem centers in my mind. I heard someone say on a speaker tape the other day, the most insane thing I'll ever do is pick up that drink or drug when I'm completely sober, when I'm completely clean. I was then shown that my life is unmanageable, that basically when I stop drinking and using and I'm left with me, that's a real problem. I really struggle with that. I struggle with life. I struggle with being. I have this internal condition that makes me restless, irritable, discontent. It means I'm a prey to misery and depression. It means that my emotional nature is up and down. I can't control my emotional nature. I have this feeling of uselessness. I'm unhappy. I'm falling out with everyone. I cannot live successfully without drink or drugs and without this beautiful spiritual solution. Beautiful. So in step 2, lack of power is my dilemma. I really had to set aside my old ideas around what I thought God was, what spiritual terms meant to me, what a spiritual life even was, because I had absolutely no idea. My book tells me that the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, and all-inclusive, never exclusive. It's open to all men and women who earnestly seek this power. So it's just a seed of willingness that, there might be something in these 12 steps through the demonstration of other people. Yeah. In step 3, I see that I've been this actor that I've been trying to manage my whole life. Maybe that's why my life's so unmanageable, because I've been trying to manage it, and it's the best I can do on my own. It doesn't make me a bad person, but left to me, that's all I can do. It's my best efforts at getting my needs met. I'm driven by selfishness, self-centeredness, fear, self-delusion, self-seeking. I'm driven by those things. I'm not in control of those patterns of behavior, and it's those patterns of behavior that's going to kill me, and it's my selfishness and self-centeredness that's going to kill me. So I need to turn away from that. And how do I do that? I take thorough and honest inventory in step 4. I really start to see that it's my belief systems that have been my problem. It's my resentment. All forms of spiritual disease come from resentment. My big book tells me that. So I write thorough inventory around my resentments. I see that fear's been a corroding thread in my life. I also look at how I've turned up in relationships, and granted, not very well, because I haven't been able to. Step 5, I share that with my sponsor and with God. My sponsor, he lovingly turned me away from self towards God. Said things like, "Yeah, I've done that." There's something really incredibly powerful about another human being admitting that they've done the same, they've thought the same, they've shown up the same, they've had the same fears. Now and that's when I started to really have a spiritual experience. It says in Appendix 2, this profound alteration in my reaction to life. That's when that really started to happen in step 5, and from writing that inventory and sharing that.
Got questions about addiction, recovery, or just life in general? Let's noodle it out together. Grab your big book, a pen, a highlighter, and a notepad, and join Nikki M and me, Justin B, on Reco12 Noodle It Out with Nikki M. Each episode, we take real-life questions, ours, yours, and those from the recovery community, and dig deep into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous to find real, practical solutions. So, if you're ready to do the work and apply the solution, tune in to Noodle It Out with Nikki M, streaming now on your favorite podcast platform.
I had this real strong kind of desire to change. I saw that a lot of my defects. I believe that we all have very similar defects. They became really objectionable, and I really wanted rid of them. Step 7's where I humbly asked for those to be removed. A lot of the defects. I'm still a very flawed human being. I fall short a lot. I really do. But it's through this willingness to change and the continual asking for the removal and this reliance on God that they start to get turned down. Step 8 and 9. I've made a list when I've written inventory of all the people that I've harmed. And step 9, I sit down with these people. I look them in the eye and I sincerely tell them, and admit to them where I've harmed them, but also I give them an opportunity for them to tell me, how my behavior, how my actions have hurt them. Incredibly powerful, really powerful. A lot of people didn't want to see me, and that's fine. That's not up to me. Incredibly humbling. I'm brought back down to size every time I sit and make amends, make direct amends. Very powerful, very powerful. But by this time, once I've made my amends, I really have entered the world of the spirit. Step 10, I continue to watch for that dishonesty, that resentment, that fear, that selfishness. Continue to watch, make amends when I've harmed people. Admit it to my sponsor and my fellows. It's really important that we admit our faults to our fellows. I share inventory with my sponsees. I think that's a really good demonstration of what we do around step 10. It really shows them the importance of step 10. Because things start to accumulate again. I may have cleared the wreckage of my past, but I need to clear the wreckage of my day-to-day living. That's step 10. Step 11's where I start to form and nurture this relationship with this power. This power that I call God today. But you can call whatever you want. It's really changed my prayer and meditation. The early days was very mechanical. About I was just doing the set prayers out of the book, and that's fine. But as time's progressed, I've really started to explore, because step 11 says make use of other spiritual practices, books, other religious books, see where religious people are right. That's what I've done. It's really deepened my relationship with spirit. So that brings us to step 12, having had a spiritual awakening. As the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to other alcoholics, addicts, people that act out. I had a lot of. I was pretty excited to sponsor. I really felt this power within me, and I really wanted to share it with other people. I did have a lot of self-centered fear around it. Maybe I don't know enough about this book. Maybe I'm not good enough. What if they relapse? Like it's down to me. Like I have the power to stop people drinking or using or acting out, which I don't. I really don't. I don't have the power to stop people, and I don't have the power to make people pick up either. All I have is the facts about myself and this book. My first couple of experiences of sponsorship went really, really well. I got two people through the 12 steps first time, and that felt good, but it probably wasn't the best thing for my ego and my pride, because I started to think, well, I'm pretty good at this. I had a job in a treatment center, so I had the pick of plenty of potential sponsees, and I'd be approached by these people because I didn't have to make the approach. The book's quite clear that it's down to us to make the approach, but I didn't really have to do that. I kind of had a captive audience, and people would approach me, and I wouldn't get a kind of understanding of their lives. I'd ask about their using and their drinking, and that's it. I wouldn't ask about their religious leanings, about their kind of family life or anything like that. It was right. Do you want to stop? Yeah, I'll sponsor you. And my ego kind of told me that having as many sponsees as possible was like a was like a badge of honor. It made me look really good. And what started to happen was, as is always the case, unfortunately, a lot of them fell off because of my first two experiences. I really believed that it was down to me, that I was doing something wrong. I took it really personally that when they go out the door, I started being really, really quite controlling, giving them advice around stuff with which I'm really not qualified to speak about, that I've not had any experience in. And I used to say things to these sponsees, and like they'd have this look on their face of like complete confusion. They'd be like, "Well, where's this come from?" I wasn't sponsoring in the way that I'd been sponsored. I really started to chase them. I'd be calling them up. Are you okay? What's going on? Have you written your fourth step yet? Badgering them. Because the willingness wasn't coming from them. The willingness was coming from me and my ego. People would in this treatment center that I was working, they would ask other people to sponsor them, and then I'd take that really personally. Like, well, why don't you want me to sponsor you? I'm Mr. CA. This real inflation of my sense of self. I started to become quite unwell around this. It wasn't all bad. I did get a few more, but to be quite honest, some of the lads, I literally dragged them through the work, kicking and screaming, got them to step 12, and then inevitably they'd go, they'd go and try the old game again. And this continued for a while. But saying that, I did have some amazing experiences. The book says to watch people recover, to see them help others, to watch loneliness vanish, to see a fellowship grow up about you, to have a host of friends. This is an experience you must not miss. We know you will not want to miss it. Frequent contact with newcomers and with each other is the bright spot of our lives. Yeah, I had some really powerful experiences of seeing people recover and see them get really fired up about this stuff and then go out and help other people and start speaking at meetings and I remember a couple of instances of being in a meeting and seeing the lads that I was sponsoring going up to the newcomer and being holding out a hand saying that I can walk this path with you. So I really felt that I was in charge of my sponsees, and really my only job as a sponsor is to guide them through this book, let the book do the work, relate my experiences around this stuff, give them a little nudge back towards God when they're maybe leaning into self. I really had to take this into prayer and meditation, get honest with my sponsor at the time about what was going on and how I was struggling around this, around sponsorship. And it was him that said that you really don't have the power to stop people picking back up. It's nothing. It's not a reflection on you. Again, unfortunately, the vast majority of people that I work with don't make it. The odds are pretty low, but that's all right. I think it says in the book one of our fellowship, I think it was Bill actually, who his first six prospects, they called them then, didn't make it. So over time, my kind of approach to sponsorship softened. I would say is the right terminology. With God's help, I really had to lean into God around this. I was still tempted to start being really controlling and give them advice around matters that I'm not qualified to speak about. So yeah, I really started to soften and kind of just understand that I'm not in charge. We look at that decision in step 3. I'd kind of gone all the way back to step 3 and was exerting my will on my sponsees. And something quite amazing happened when I took this different approach. I really softened and maybe didn't take quite as many on, and we really started to at the beginning, when I'm 12 stepping them, really get an understanding of what's going on in their lives and sometimes saying to them, look, I don't think that we're the right match, but I do know someone else who maybe, has a more similar life, has a similar, family background and kind of guiding them to them, something that I would have never have done at the start, because it was all about how many sponsees I could get and show off about. And the less that I'm trying to force people to do this stuff, actually the less pain I'm in, because it does cause me pain when I'm wanting people to do stuff and I've got expectations on people. The higher my expectations on people, the more pain I'm in. Yeah, and it really is such a magical experience sponsoring. People call it the keys to the kingdom. This is again, my big book tells me on page 89, practical experience shows that nothing will so much ensure immunity from drinking or using or acting out as intensive work with other alcoholics or addicts. It works when other activities fail. There's been many times where, I've really been kind of turning to self and, been full of fear or resentment. And a sponsor will just call at that right time. My sponsor Isaac, he shared the other day that sponsorship isn't meant to be convenient. If it's inconvenient, then you're probably doing it right. There's been many times where I've been really tired. But I know that I've got to write the book with someone, and to be quite honest, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I'd rather sit around and do nothing and go to sleep. I do it, because I turn up, I show up today. And something happens as I'm sat there, and there's a couple of coffees, a couple of big books. I'm all lit up again. I'm all energized. I really am most at peace when I'm taking someone through the work. I still seek sponsees. Naturally they kind of come and go, and I lose a lot around step 4. That's fine. You can almost become a master of steps 1 to 3, and then they go on step 4, and that's absolutely fine. Can't remember where I was going with that. Doesn't matter. Yeah, sorry. I still seek out sponsees, and once it gets a bit quiet and a bit dry, I get on newcomer meetings. I approach those newcomers in meetings. And again, I don't always want to do that, but I have to remember how I felt when I was at my first meeting. The first few meetings. Absolutely terrified. So full of fear. Really, really anxious. I didn't know what was going on. Didn't know what people were talking about. There's no way that I would have had the courage to then go and speak to someone in a meeting and say, "Oh, can you sponsor me?" when I don't even know what a sponsor is. So it's really important that we approach the newcomer, because my little bit of self-centered fear as a recovered drug addict compared to their overwhelming, just absolute, fear and insecurity, and it doesn't compute, does it? Incomparable. I really enjoy my 12-step work. It really is where I grow, where I learn so much about myself. There's been quite a few times where I've had to make amends to my sponsees, because I'm still a very flawed human being. My humanness comes out. I turn to self still. But I really don't believe that I'd be sat here today if I wasn't sponsoring, or if I was, I think I'd be in a lot of pain. It's vital that we go and sponsor. I'll just finish on this experience I had. My grandma was really ill, and I went to visit her, and it's a miracle that I could even turn up and be present in itself. I went and made amends to my grandma. I looked her in the eye and told her that I loved her, and expressed my regret for all the harm that I've caused, and I'd had this beautiful moment. But throughout this time, I had quite a lot of step 12 work kind of booked in. I was taking someone through the work pretty rapidly because he was going to die. I had a couple of speaking arrangements booked, and turning to self, it was like, well, I've got this pretty big thing going on in my life, so what, I'm gonna cancel that. I'm not going to do any work with other people, because this needs to take priority, and that isn't the case. It was through intensive work with other men, and through those speaking arrangements that actually that whole experience was actually really, really, really beautiful. I mean, it was challenging, of course it was. She's very nearly at the time that she's going to pass on to the next world. But I know without my 12-step work that experience would have been a lot more challenging, because I would have been leaning far more into myself than I would have other people. And I was able to go into that situation with an attitude of, how can I be of service to my grandma? How can I be of service to the rest of my family? What can I bring to this situation? What can I contribute to this? And that's remarkable for someone who was so incredibly selfish and self-centered. I really feel that I've been reborn, and I absolutely love this way of life and what we do. It brings me immense joy and peace, and happiness. Thanks for listening.
Wow. Was so, I love that you spoke about sponsorship, because, so many people forget about sponsorship or want to just go to the rooms and be in recovery. Can I be heard, by the way? Is my reception okay?
It's not the best, but we do hear each word. It's like a little bit of a weird echo.
It's probably the best I could do. I hope it was a little bit better. Okay, so I won't talk too much. I don't have a great reception where I am. I need to be here. I love talking about sponsorship. This is a program, and people work a few step program, a meetings program. And this is a 12-step. Is what does it when all fails. I love you spoke about really being control of your own life, having to having to stay, having to rescue them, having to, have to succeed. Can you talk a little bit about the thing, like what it was like, and what changed in your life now? Like, how did maybe we'll call it, unhealthy sponsorship to healthy sponsorship. How did you get in line with the big book as the big book says we should?
Sorry, was that a question? I really couldn't really hear what the question was.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
How did you sponsor from? Can you dive into and talk about how you transitioned from unhealthy sponsorship and being controlling and being really tied to the results and on top of your sponsees to sponsoring in a healthy way and being, of maximum service and effectiveness? How did you switch and really dive deeper into what you do different today? And maybe even if we already talk about giving advice in a way that's helpful, talk to others, maybe we'll open it up the floor. People could ask about their own sponsees, maybe give some tips for sponsoring healthfully or, appropriately according to the big book.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Karen. It really was kind of this admission to my sponsor that I was behaving like that I was sponsoring like that. I'd kind of kept it to myself, and I wasn't sponsoring as he had sponsored me. So it's that admission, like with anything, like with any defective character, it's the kind of admission. If we look at step 10, if I'm discussing it with someone, there's something really powerful about that, because I've got honest about something that maybe I've been keeping to myself. So it was through that and God's help, taking it to prayer and meditation, show me how I can be more effective to my sponsees, show me how I can be of better service to these people. And really taking another deep dive into the pages, the chapter working with others, and following that more, aligning my sponsorship more with that, and also seeking help from other fellows, asking other fellows, and it's probably a reflection of where I was, what was spiritually. And of course, even today, I still make mistakes with my sponsees. I always will. I'm human, and the reason why it's not a good idea to kind of give too much advice around stuff that I'm not qualified in is that I really don't know what's good for me. That's why I need this power. So why would I then know what's good for other people? So something that I've really been shown by my current sponsor, Isaac, is how relating my own experiences. So if the sponsee calls me up with some inventory, it's like, oh yes, yeah, I've been through this. This is what I did. This is how I lent into God and the program and you guys. That's a much more effective way of helping people rather than saying, right, I think you should do this. It's like, well, this is what I did that's aligned with the 12-step program that helps me in this situation. Much more effective.
Okay, that's amazing. That's cool. Is that Young's son, Isaac, who's your sponsor? Wow,
Yeah.
lucky you, the father-son duo. That's cool. That's cool. And I'm going to ask you for some more, this will let you give advice in a good way that's helpful. I'd love some more tips. So what I heard you just say is rather than tell someone what to do if they share an issue, let's say, for me, I'm a mommy in recovery. So a lot of moms in recovery will say, my teen did this, or they were rude, or, I just want to hit her, or I hate her friends, or, any of the common things that would happen in kind of my orbit or in a mommy orbit. And I'll say, well, here's what I did. I went out, I got a life, I went to Pilates, and then I prayed to be of service. And, that I can only share what I did. You do what's right for you. Can you give some other good tips for healthy sponsorship? So the first thing you said is sharing your own experience, strength, and hope in a similar situation you may have had. Any other great tips that come to mind for you for effective sponsorship?
Yeah, sure. A lot of what I say is, have you gone and helped someone else? Have you taken this to God? Take this to prayer and meditation. And have you helped anyone else? Have you, is there any way that you can be of service to people, either inside or outside the fellowship? Because it's quite simple. This stuff. The less I'm thinking about myself, my resentment, my fear, my dishonesty, my guilt, my shame, the better, as a byproduct of that, the better I feel. Yeah.
Hey, Spearheads, if you're looking to dive deeper into the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous with people who live the solution, then you won't want to miss Reco12 Big Book Roundtable. Join David G., Nikki M., and me, the moderator Justin B., 3 recovered addicts from multiple fellowships, as we break down the big book line by line. In each 30-minute episode, we share our experience, strength, and hope in a real, raw, and practical roundtable discussion. So, if you are ready to learn and apply what you learn, tune in to Reco12 Big Book Roundtable on your favorite podcast platform.
Yeah, I actually completely relate to that. And you know what? People on the line, the big book says, even though Ollie seems pretty relaxed, the big book tells us this is simple, not easy. A lot of times, I'll want to take a nap, but I made a commitment for something. And, sometimes the most helpful thing is to take a nap, to get into pause, when we're restless, irritable, discontent. But sometimes, we have to smash the delusion. We always have to smash the delusion that we are like other people, as our big book says. And we got to do a 5-minute meditation, take a few deep breaths, rest a little bit, and then go help another person. And this is like next level, trusting higher power that higher power will give you the energy to carry through. And somehow, kind of like what Ollie's saying, helping another person always works out. It's never really failed. You don't want to abandon your family, abandon your responsibilities. But maybe you could give an example of that, Ollie, when you were in a pickle or an issue that you had, and that, how you smashed the delusion that like you were like other people, and rather than getting under the covers and getting a box of tissues or a box of bonbons, you went out and helped another person. Does any such example come to mind?
Yeah, I mean the example that I gave of my grandma being ill, if I'm turning to self, I go into that situation, full of self-pity, or how's this going to affect me? What am I going to do if she dies? How am I going to feel, etc., etc. But by being of service, speaking at meetings, continual intensive work with other alcoholics and drug addicts, some people can get away with going into situations like that with that attitude who aren't like us, but I know that my selfishness and my self-centeredness is going to kill me. So, I need to be out of myself, and trusting in God and doing stuff that I don't always want to do, but I know I really need to do, because it continues to save my life and keep me away from that first drink or drug or behavior.
Amazing.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, I was just going to say, please
Can you
jump
hear me
in.
okay? Because I don't have my
Great,
headphones.
we hear you great.
Dead.
You're fabulous.
Thanks. Thank you so much, Ollie. That was like incredible. Just really just what I needed, just what a present from God as I'm trying to start sponsoring this way. How do you like balance like when someone just wants to talk, like just wants to talk and share like with you as a fellow, and and just to keep them on track, like without being like a drill sergeant and like a bossy teacher, it has to come from them. And also, this is like the age-old question. I mean, I was told by a sponsor that she referred it from the big book, but that like basically, of course, God, but then family job than the newcomer. Like you don't talk to the newcomer when you're supposed to be working with your family, but that's always like it's always I'm saying always, like I always have kids that resent when I'm doing with program on the phone, you're always on the phone, you're always on meetings, like that type of thing. So that's kind of two questions. And I'll just throw in one more, and it's both you and Karen. How does one have confidence? Like it's so easy to be in self-centered fear, or like to put their name out proudly, like, yeah, hi, I'm available to sponsor, just and to feel good about it when you're kind of like a new. Thanks.
Yeah, so the first, I've got three questions to answer here. The first part, you were talking about people that I think you meant like when they just kind of offload on you. Did you?
Yeah, they want to share. They're not so excited to like keep going gung ho. They want to share and talk with you, and and it's not going to really necessarily help them so much, or I don't know how much it's going to help them, but just to. Yeah, they want to share. They want to share with you. They want to share about their life, their day, their week. And of course, you could always remind them, but going back to God. What does God say about it? Focusing on other, but it's not really taking them through the step. Like it's slowing them down. Let's say, if you're just supposed to like just be, yeah, we're doing step one, step two, like kind of being a human about it. I don't know. I'm not, but then but they're so easy for them to. Like it's so easy for them to just get like want to talk and share, and and they find that helpful. It's like comforting. It's helpful, but it doesn't really take them through the steps. It doesn't really bring them the solution. I don't know. I don't think.
Yeah. Thanks, Brindy. I think it's finding that balance between letting them kind of tell you what's going on in their lives, but I have found that if I'm on the phone to a sponsee who's maybe having some challenges, I let them speak for like half an hour, 45 minutes. It doesn't actually help them because it just digs them further into their resentment, their selfishness, their self-pity. So there is an art to this, to being able to kind of interject kindly and lovingly, and maybe even saying to them, look, I really don't think this is helping you by discussing it in this way. Let's bring it back to the book. Yeah, let's look at step 10, a lot of the time I'll ask them, so how is this actually, what is this disturbing within you? How is this stealing your peace of mind? So yeah, there's definitely an art to kind of keeping it quite brief, but not kind of cutting them off so they don't feel that they can speak. That's definitely something that develops over time. This sixth sense, I have experience of people and who maybe really offload, and that is kind of what we're here for, but it's how we constructively turn them to the program and to God that's the kind of skill in sponsorship. Can you just quickly ask me the second part of the question? And I've forgotten the third, so ask me both, please.
Hey, Reco12 Spearheads. If our recovery resources have helped you, please consider a donation. Your financial support, as well as your word-of-mouth support, keeps Reco12 running and reaching the man who is still sick. Donate today at reco12.com/support or check the show notes for PayPal and Venmo links. Every contribution helps carry the message. Thanks for being a Reco12 Spearhead.
Oh, thank you. Just having confidence when you're starting out. Like I feel judgmental when I see, certain people like saying they're available to sponsor, and I'm like thinking, well, you're not doing this and you're not doing that. Like I'm just, that's one of the questions.
Yeah. Okay. There's lots of different styles of sponsorship. There certainly is in the fellowship that I'm a member of. Just be confident that this book has the guidance. All we have is this book and our own experiences. Yeah. That's all we need. It sounds a little bit like, I've done this a lot, taking other people's inventory. I don't think you're ready to sponsor. You're not practicing spiritual principles, and now you're going to be helping people. That's going to end in disaster. All that kind of, taking other people's inventory. I've done all that. But today, I understand that what other people are doing is absolutely none of my business. I'm really only responsible for my conduct in life in general. Yeah, it's not really any of my business what other people are doing. And really, just let the book do the work.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for that reminder about not taking people's inventories. Just that balance of family. I was told that first, family, job, newcomer, just that balance of family and personal life. My kids don't like when I'm doing anything to do with being on the phone, on meetings, program. I don't know, working for God, keeping the balance right. If you have any thoughts on that.
Sure. It doesn't sound like I have the same kind of responsibilities in my life that you do. I live on my own, but I do know that it's through the disciplines of this program and through sponsorship and carrying the message that I'm able to show up in the rest of my life. But people who are really busy, there's no kind of set amount of sponsees that we're meant to have. some people just take one person through the work at a time, and that's absolutely fine. It's whatever, fits. Of course, this our family life, work life, and then recovery life all has to kind of fit together nicely, and perhaps it's quite challenging to begin with to really find this middle ground, so everything's kind of in place. Personally, I do some voluntary work. I've had a bit of paid work, but the rest of the time, is kind of devoted to this program. Of course, I do still see my family, but when I do, I'm still fully immersed in the program. And also remember that this program is a design for living. It's something that we take out into the outside world. This is where the program really comes into its own, where we practice the spiritual principles in all our affairs. A demonstration of God's power in all our affairs.
A lot of what I'm hearing and what Ollie's saying here is that we grow in understanding and effectiveness. This is not an overnight matter. You get more of a sixth sense, like you said, of how to sponsor others, how to balance family and work, which responsibility comes first. This is not an overnight matter. We have to remember that and be gentle with ourselves. The big book says we have to be hard on ourselves, soft on others, but, just do our best, and let higher power do the rest. Do we have any final questions? Would anyone else like to come in before Ollie prays us out? Okay, I'll ask one more question before you pray us out. Ollie, what's your recovery plan for today? I'd love to hear after you get off this call. What's your day look like recovery-wise? What's the next couple things you got on the schedule for today?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Karen. I have a bit of service to do for my local H&I committee. I'm going down the gym. I mean, that's not really recovery, but this body was given me.
Oh yeah, it is recovery. I think it's recovery. I just came back from the gym. That's totally a part of my recovery because it's helpful, right? It's helpful if you've exercised, if you've gotten your dopamine hit from exercise rather than drugs or some other unseemly behavior. It's actually helpful to all of humanity and those around you if you're taking care of your physical and mental health. Sorry to interrupt you.
Exactly. No, it's fine. Yeah. So this, God gave me this body. So it's important that I nurture it and give it the nutrients that it needs. And after that, I'm going to a face-to-face meeting, a book study. No doubt I'll have various calls from sponsees. Yeah, that's it. Of course, my prayer and meditation routine. If anything crops up in my day, then I'll give my sponsor a call. That's it.
Okay, amazing. Wishing everybody a beautiful, recovered plan, God-centered plan for the rest of their day. And with that, I'm going to ask you to bless all of us and pray us out so that our next several steps are in line with higher power's will for us for today.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you all for your questions.
One last thing, put your number in the chat, Ollie D, if you haven't yet.
Yes, I will do. Thanks for all your questions and for listening and contributing. Without you guys, I'm nothing. Left to my own devices, I drink and use and burn my life to the ground. So you're all very important to me, even though I don't know you personally. You're all incredibly important to me. Just take a moment's silence, then I'll lead us out with the step 7 prayer. My Creator, I'm now willing that you should have all of me, good and bad. I pray that you now remove from me every single defect of character which stands in the way of my usefulness to you and my fellows. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Ollie D. Everybody will have this recording ready on Wednesday. Thank you for all that you do. Please send me your fellow recovered people as speakers. I can use some more of them. I'm happy to get them. And please continue to be a spearhead, intelligent agent spearhead of God's everlasting creation. You all keep doing that too. Thank you.